The other one won't shut you off. How many times is, Pepco won't shut you down if you're late. 1 month, maybe even 2, but don't push it because you will be without utilities, right? So better understanding what accounts are being reported and how those accounts will be impacted by your history or your ability to pay, that all helps. So even if we get into a place where, we have a hardship or we have something that throws us off, right? At least if we understand more about the principles and how this whole, credit scoring models work, we can maybe make different decisions.
Right. But I think we should always make our mortgage payments on our home. You've got to have a home over your head.
Yeah.
You've got to have a place where you can go to sleep and know you're going to be there.
Yeah.
So I just put my mortgage in the mail this morning because it's so important to me, the value of my home. That's what shows a woman. You can walk in your home and well, it's paid for another month.
Right.
And never be late, knock on wood, never be late.
Never, if you can.
If you can, that's true. But you've got to really think, this May month I want to take that $1,000 and do something else with it.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
Go shopping.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, the whole mindset.
But you got to stop and think.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole mindset of a good credit management is about also thinking, extending the credit. Why did I put something on credit to begin with?
Right.
We need credit. Everyone needs credit. Unless you're a millionaire and you can really pay cash for everything. But even millionaires may not be able to rent an apartment because if they don't have a credit, a credit profile, they can't even do simple things. They may not be able to rent a car. So there are some things that you still need credit for.
Right.
But credit should be used to give you options. Building strong credit should be there as an option, not as a necessity. Right. So it really all starts in the very, very beginning of when I want to purchase something or get something. I'm going to get something today and pay for it tomorrow, but do I have the money in the bank today to pay for it? And maybe I just want to make that decision because I want to get more favorable terms or financing, some other kind of wealth building decisions, right?
Right.
Not because I want it today and I really don't have the money, but I'll get it tomorrow. That's when you start getting in trouble when you're dealing with credit.
Yeah, because you can get so bogged down with things. You just borrow from Peter to pay Paul, and you're putting 10 on this one, at 5 on that. You're just wasting. The interest rates go high.
Absolutely, because tomorrow something always happens, right?
Yes,
so if you get credit today, planning, with a plan to pay for it tomorrow, something might happen tomorrow.
Exactly.
And then what happened? I'm just compounding the problem. So, yeah.
Okay, how young do you have to be before you can get credit? Well, 18, 19, 20?
Well, think about it. Actually, you have a Social Security number as an infant.
Right.
So we have Social Security.
And those damn cards are powerful. Your Social Security is powerful.
Yeah, it really is. So you have to start even thinking about, protecting that Social Security. I have seen breaches of children, 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, where their Social Security cards are being used.
Oh, I know that too. Yes, I do know.
So having
people who are doing it.
Yeah, having family coverage protection for identity theft is key. But you really start building credit, I think, when someone is about 18 years old, because at that point, as parents, we want to start thinking about maybe adding our children on our cards as authorized users when it's protected. In a protected environment, it's strong, right?
Yes.
So doing something like that for our children, starting to help them build credit. But then when they start getting a job, and a good way of teaching them how to manage credit is maybe starting off with a prepaid account that they manage themselves. Prepaid account, you put a certain amount of money out there and you have to manage how you're dealing with that flow throughout the month. But as far as establishing credit, you really don't need credit cards at 15 years old. No. And if you don't have can show the proof and ability to repay, you shouldn't get one now that the laws have changed. But I think about 18 years old is a good time to start just getting, like I said, maybe being added on to your parents as long as it's a strong, healthy, positive account. And then building yourself up, because unfortunately, when kids go away to college and then they come out, if they don't have any credit, then they're starting from scratch, and it can be a little bit more difficult. People, they don't want to take the risk on you.
I have a niece who I got a credit gas card for. From my card. And I said, this is very important to me. Do not run it up if you're not going to be able to make the payment. She was doing perfect until she started letting her boyfriend use it.
Oh.
It ran up like $500.
Yeah.
So that card went away, and she got a good mouth talk. I tell you that.
Well, I tell you,
to run it up like that, it's you're not taking charge.
No, but you know what you could have done? You could have helped your niece by adding her on to your card.
She was,
but never giving her the card.
But this was the
You
Christmas.
could have kept you could have kept the card at your house, and she never would have had access to it.
Yeah, but when she goes to get gas, you got to slide the card in.
Oh, well, of course. If
And that's
for her
the only
to
thing
use.
she used it for was for gasoline.
Right.
But when she got involved with this guy, he was using it too, and his friends and everybody.
Oh, yeah. But see, then we're not learning how to manage our credit. We're not managing that. That was a gift you gave her, and
That
she
was
needed
a
to learn
wonderful gift
how to manage
at
that.
Christmas. I put it in this huge box with lots of paper. She had to dig. Aunt Rose, there's nothing in there. I just keep looking. She goes, oh, my
Wow.
credit card.
Wow.
And I said, you know what that means? Yes, I got to be responsible like you.
Oh, yeah.
But it wasn't
Yeah.
very long when she started becoming irresponsible, so
Yeah.
I clipped the card.
Yeah, because a credit card, I tell people, is your best friend or your worst enemy.
Yes, yes.
You have to be disciplined to manage credit with a credit card. But that actually, a credit card is also a powerful tool to really help people to build and restore credit. But you've got to use it wisely.
You sure do, because you can go in Kohl's in 5 minutes.
Stay out of the
Stay
stores.
out of the stores. Don't do any of those
Yeah,
things.
that's
because
what I tell
it's fun
people.
to go
Stay out of
shopping.
the stores.
But you got to figure how you're going to make that payment back.
Oh, absolutely.
My dad was a very old-fashioned guy. You must pay your bills first, and your food comes second. If you have to eat peanut butter for a couple of days or even 2 weeks, you're not going to go starving. But he was very good, and I followed my father's way. I
Yeah.
do. I never charge something that I can't pay.
You can't pay, and I think that's the key, because you've
friend-
got to, you have to build credit. So you have to go into some level of debt, unfortunately, to build credit.
Well, my credit score is 850, and I'm so proud of that.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes, I have never been late on
Yeah.
a credit card bill, never.
Yeah, yeah, that is good. And there's a lot of people that are, exactly in your same shoe. But then there are people who may be in an 850 today, but next month next month they get, furloughed or they lose their job completely.
Right.
And then they're in a really probably a very awkward, very emotional position because they've never been there before. They don't know how to
Exactly,
handle it.
yeah.
Credit can be very
It's scary.
It can be scary.
It is very
But
scary.
you know what I tell people, Angie? I tell people credit does not define who you are. Your credit score does not determine who you are. It's just the position that you may be in, the way that you're evaluated in the risk level, but you can always restore it. That's one of the best things about credit.
You can restore your credit.
Oh, absolutely.
How long does it take how many months or years does it take to clear your name?
Well, it really depends. It depends on what's the circumstance. So there are certain things that may happen that, depending on it. Like, let's say you want to buy a house, and unfortunately you file bankruptcy. Then the guidelines say that you can't buy another house for
I
2
didn't
to
think
3
you
years
could
or something
either.
like that. Yeah, you can't, but that's the guideline. But in that period of time, I tell you, I have seen a client with a bankruptcy credit score jump up faster than it did when they were just trying to pay.
What is the credit score that you file for bankruptcy? What is it?
Oh, your credit score is irrelevant. So you file bankruptcies, whatever, depending on the guideline for that particular type of bankruptcy. It really doesn't matter about your credit score. But most people who file bankruptcy have had their credit score impacted because that's the position they're in. They're in some type of financial distress. And so as a result, they've most likely been late on some things. They may have some collections. They may even have, some judgments. It just depends. But it's not, the decision whether or not a bankruptcy is granted is not based on a credit score. But I tell people, bankruptcy is not a dirty word. It should be the last resort, and it should be made a decision after seeking good counsel from a bankruptcy attorney.
So just say I file for bankruptcy, God forbid, I hope I never do. How long will it take me to get back into the running, to get good credit again?
Yeah, well, you may not be able to buy a house for, I think it's 2 to 3 years. Ask a lender about that. But you certainly will actually see your credit score increased significantly. The key thing with a bankruptcy after it's been discharged is to go open up a new trade line, which is the craziest thing.
A new trade line?
A new account, like a credit card.
How can you do that?
You can do that.
You run very smart, lady.
You can do that. But that's the key after a bankruptcy, is to establish your new credit card, keep the balance low, pay it on time. That credit card will start to work wonders on your credit report.
But how can you file bankruptcy? And everything is basically gone. How can you get another new credit card?
Well, there are ways.
Don't they look in your background?
Yeah, there are ways to get credit cards that are not what we would call traditionally the unsecured. An unsecured card is basically built on your credit. It's based on your credit profile. A bank looks at your credit report and determines whether or not they think they'll take a risk on you. But there are other ways of getting credit cards. There are secured credit cards. And with a secured credit card, and in some instances, you don't even have to have a credit report pulled. As long as you give the bank your money, you're borrowing against your own money.
Yeah.
But it's reported to the credit bureaus as a regular credit card. So
Is
there
that
are
like someone will
ways.
send you a thing in the mail for $50, you give it to us, and we'll give you a credit line of maybe $100 or something like that?
Well, no, they'll never double the credit limit, whatever amount of money you give them. And secured cards are different from prepaid cards. There are a number of cards out
I'm
there. I
probably thinking
won't
about
call
prepaid
names.
cards.
Yeah,
No, I
there are a
don't
number
know
of them that are out there that, like I said, are good for young adults learning how to manage credit, but they don't do a thing for your credit score itself because they don't report to the credit bureau.
okay.
So whenever you establish credit or an account, you want to make sure that you're always working with people that report to the credit bureaus.
Okay.
But what the secured card does is basically, you know, you give Bank A $500, and you might pay a little fee depending on the institution. And I may pay $50 to $75 or whatever, or maybe even no fee. And in return, I get to borrow up to a certain amount of that money, maybe 90% of that
$500
money. Absolutely. But every month, though, just like an unsecured card, I'm going to pay interest on it. So I'm going to pay you to borrow my money.
To get your own money back, you have to pay.
You absolutely will.
Oh,
Right, but it's an alternative
It's a
resource.
good way to start over again.
Absolutely, and that's what it's for. It's a way to build credit. It's also a way, let's say I'm a young person and I don't have credit. So it's a way to restore or to build good positive credit.
my first credit card was from Sears and Roebuck. I bought a mattress. And I'd never had credit before, but I did go through a divorce, but I had a good job. And they gave me my mattress. And I felt so special because they gave me credit. You know, I'm a nobody. That's how I looked at it. And now I've got a credit card.
Right.
And I would would never pay one of those cards not on time. Never.
Yeah.
Because credit to me is a luxury. It's a gift that I've been given because of my background, and you can't screw that up.
Right.
I can't.
Well, keep in mind, though, that they really didn't do you a favor.
Oh, they didn't?
No, they really didn't. I mean, you are special. Don't get me wrong. You're a very, very special lady. But the credit card companies, it's about them and it's about their money, right? So they extended credit to you because they wanted to get something back. And I think this all kind of boils down to, we were talking before about education. And this is not a topic that unfortunately people talk about in their homes. You know, I ask people all the time, did your parents teach you about credit when you were home? Did you have family meetings where you talked about credit? Most of the time, we don't. It sounds like your father instilled some good principles in you.
Yes, he did.
But you're probably not the majority,
I'm sure.
unfortunately. And there are no, courses in school. We're trying to work on that, but there are no courses in school now to teach you about credit. So we learn about credit from our environment. And the things that we see, absolutely, and the things that we see, or what someone says, if they say, "Oh, don't worry about that, don't pay that. It's a collection. It'll go away," or "Don't answer the phone when the 877 numbers call."
88 numbers.
Yeah, those are the things that we learn about from our environment, and so we're just trying to really change that, really impact generations, and I say one credit point at a time. If we can educate people on the principles of good credit management, get them to see things a little differently, also change their thoughts that I'll never be able to. That's the worst thing that I don't ever want to hear that from people. I'll never have, or I'll never be able to, because they just don't understand how really fluid credit is. It can change on a monthly basis.
That's amazing. That is amazing. I've learned so much from you today.
Oh, good. Thank you.
I've learned a lot. But like I said, my motto is you pay your bills. If you have to eat peanut butter for a week to make that payment, because your credit is who you are, is what my dad used to say. Angela, that's who you are.
Like your word. It's your word. It really is.
And I never say
It's like
anything
your
to
word.
anybody if I'm going to do something. If I don't do it, I'll do it even if I'm sick.
Right. Yeah.
Because my dad was the exact same way.
Yeah, it
So
is.
he was a very good person, too. He stood like on a pillar, and I idolized those things. I've never forgotten what he's told me about life and things like that.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. I mean, those kind of principles that he instilled in you, we should do that more often in our family.
We should talk to our children.
We could talk to our children, like you're doing, like you did with your niece.
Yeah.
Wow.
Can you believe our time is almost up?
Oh, this has been
And
so
we still
fun.
got so much more to go. But I really
Yeah.
want to thank you for being
thank
on
you.
The
Thank
Awakening.
you for having me.
I've
I
learned so much
appreciate it.
about you
Thank
and the work
you.
that you. Maybe you'll come back again.
Oh, I'd love to.
I want to
would love
thank
to.
everyone for watching the show today, and I hope you've learned a lot, like I have learned. And try as hard as you can to pay your bills. Until next time.